How do I know where everybody is?
It should be in your right.
No, on
Let
the
me
right, I
see
just
the...
said view.
No. There are already a couple of persons.
5 participants, but I can't see anything else other than you at the moment.
Okay, I don't see.
It's
So
okay.
Laura is there, and then the only thing is that the language.
Hello.
Oh, thank you,
Hello.
Laura. I was not wondering if people could unmute or not.
Yeah.
And then the language. Spoken language is going to be English. English UK, whatever it is.
Nice.
Hi, Isabel. Welcome.
Hi, how are you? I have found free time for once. Even closed the door of my office.
Oh, who's that person there?
Yeah, but I can put the camera, but we are in the middle of a storm, so let's see if the connection doesn't. Hello.
Isabel,
With
nice to see you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice abaya, but no coverage.
Haven't seen you for a long time, Isabel. It's nice to see you.
I know.
Nice to see you. I've heard lots of good things about what you're doing there.
Well, it's a team. I just support. But yeah, we
It's
do
always...
our best. Yeah.
No, it's very interesting. And you and Laura have a very good relationship. That's nice. It's so easy when you're working like that, you know?
Thank you. I will. My ego is inflated at last. I have 1 month and a half left, and then Kennedy Temple will be the ones replacing me here. So let's see if he go on and he keeps on pushing for WhatsApp. A pity because community-wise we are really blocked. You know, it's a nightmare here. I was here 7 years ago. I was going everywhere, no permits, speaking with no matter who, following Oxfam pipelines. And now we arrive here and even visiting our waste area, you need a permit. So it has become really a very difficult place to work out of the hospitals. But yeah. And the hospitals, you know, the apps one is a monster and the other one is a half monster. Yeah.
And now you still got cholera and it's still getting bigger.
Yeah, and we have had a lot of problems with wastewater. So we are in Alcana, we just finished to rehabilitate the cess pit and a new sockaway pit. And in apps is planned. We are waiting for the hospital director to find the place for a new cess pit.
Yeah.
Yes, by the... So, and then Rodis, the law constructor, has made she will share a garden for rainwater collection.
Oh,
interesting.
Lovely.
Innovative. That is her project. She will explain, I think. She's in contact with Laura, so she will share as part
is that
of
is that in the playground? Is that in the playground in Abs?
Yes, around the playground in Abs. Yeah.
Excellent.
With all the water coming from the ACs and from the buildings around. So,
excellent. Yeah. Nice.
Let's see. That's been quite funny. She has a lot of anecdotes with the story of the trees, flowers, agricultural engineers, and
well, you can try. It's not going to do any harm, is it?
No, and there's no space for more trenches. So you have to be creative in apps. It was a really good surprise. So if you have anywhere else to send her, please just make the proposal, because she is very, very creative, efficient, nice to work with her, and WhatsApp related also. So yeah, count on her. It was her
I'm
first
not-
mission. I hope she will go on. She will keep working with us.
I think Rodis was in the office before she went for her first mission. I think she helped us in the
Probably.
office first. Yeah.
She's Lebanese, so apart from that, she speaks Arabic. A woman
Ooh.
logistician speaking Arabic, English, and French. What else do you need?
What else would I need? Yeah, very
Yeah,
nice. Nice. Excellent. So how are we doing?
I think we are moving. So we go for the waste. I shut up.
No, it's always good to hear from you. It's very relevant. Very relevant. We're talking about wastewater. Wastewater was last week, though. Unfortunately, you missed last week.
Yeah, I know. I saw it on the. I follow it after. So
Oh,
yes.
okay. Oh, wow. Oh, I'm impressed.
Shouldn't be. You know that it's I began as shaky WhatsApp, but we began.
I remember very well New Rambler 10 years ago or plus.
10 years. Yes, it will be 16 years.
Wow.
60 years in September. Yeah. Not so long as you, but almost.
Oh, yeah. God, don't tell me that.
So we have now grandparents' stories to tell people in the past. 60
Yeah.
years.
When I was younger, yeah.
And I was not so white and so wise. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so how are we doing? How many people we have today? Eight people. Well, that's a bit low. There was 30 people had accessed it, and we have 8.
But perhaps we should still start.
I think so.
Because of the time.
I think so too. So what's the time now? Just set the time. 2:35, yeah?
37, yes.
37, okay, because it doesn't show on this one. Okay, let's start with the people there. The other people who can come can catch up, and we'll see what we have. So today we're doing the last of our webinars for water waste, which is our series of 5 different webinars. And we're going to go through now a little bit. Jumps very quickly. This was what our webinars were on. We had one in March, April, May, June, and July. And we're on the last one, which is being smart about waste. I want to start with a disclaimer as always, saying that these are OCBA's SOPs and documentation. If you're from another section, and if you have any other questions that refer to your section, please contact your technical focal point, because there might be some differences, subtle differences. Even though the overall story is the same, there might be some differences slightly between the different sections. So as I said, we're being smart about our waste. It's going to be me, Paul Jarrow in English. I have Maite Guardiola in the background, the other technical referent for WhatsApp. She's going to be doing one tomorrow in French and one in Spanish. If you prefer the other languages, we can put you in for the other languages. And so let's get into, I'm speeding up because we have quite a lot to get through today. So the objectives of today are, at the end of this session, we're going to see the key highlights of all the different types of wastes. We're going to see the OCBA goals, what we're aiming to do with waste management. We're going to show you how to be brave with your waste. And because of that, we have some key documents you can follow and you can download later on. We might put some things in the link so you can actually link directly to documents concerning. So our contents today are, we're going to talk about what other types of waste are they, how to reduce, reuse, and recycle. And then we're going to do a revision on the last 4 modules, the expired drugs, medical waste, hazardous waste, liquid waste, as a kind of resume of the 5 webinars we have done so far. Okay. So let's start this off with the climate ambitions. These are set by for OCBA and maybe for other sections as well, of what we're trying to achieve. So by the end of 2025, overall weight of waste has been reduced by 20%, and by 50% by 2030. So that's one of our ambitions. Another one of our ambitions. By the end of 2025, 80% of missions have installed or implemented best environmental possible options to ensure proper destruction and final disposal of all categories of generated waste by 2030. So those are quite a long off, but that's interesting. The one that's really called relevant is by the end of 26, 100% of the projects have assessed and identified viable recycling streams for their different types of waste. So these are the ambitions that we have to try and go towards. They're very ambitious. That's why they're called ambitions. And they will be very difficult to attain, but this is what we're going to be aiming for, and this is what we should try to do. So we need your help to attain these ambitions. So let's think. What is waste? Well, waste is only waste when you waste it. So the idea is if we don't throw it away, then it's not waste. We can do things with some of it. So in the last 4 or so webinars, we were looking at different types of waste. We looked at expired drugs. We looked at other things. So just shout to me, as I've only got 8 people who can talk to me. Just shout to me, what other types of waste do you think we deal with in MSF? A little bit of participation to see if you're awake.
Fleet waste.
Say again, sorry.
Fleet waste.
Fleet waste, okay. Fleet waste, okay. You're talking about tyres and oil and tyres and batteries and things.
Oil, yes.
Oh, yeah,
Filter,
yeah.
oil, fuel
Yeah.
from
We touched on that.
Mhm.
Yeah, we touched on that a little bit. What else do we have?
E-waste.
E-waste, very good. We touched on that as well. That was the one done with Sebastian. Last one was about e-waste, but very good. What other waste do we have?
Furniture.
Furniture.
Construction.
Yeah. Construction.
Construction, exactly.
Construction waste. That's a good one, actually. I haven't done much on construction waste. What else?
In the places where you are distribution, all these plastic bags, boxes,
Packaging.
vaccinations and distribution. Yeah, packaging. Yeah.
Packaging, yes. And I'll let's go an old story for you and Isabel. Let's talk about this. Is the old plumpy nut packages. When you did a distribution of plumpy nut, the packaging was spread all over the trees for miles and miles and miles, if I remember. Okay. Yeah, that's correct, yes. What else? What do we use every day? And then throw away. Paper, what else?
Water.
Say again?
Oh, sorry, I was speaking with someone else.
Paper and then
Isabel.
Food, no? Food remains also from
food waste.
hospitals,
Yes. What about
houses, food waste.
yes, food waste. What else? Daily. Think of your daily. What's in your daily bin, in your daily dustbin? In your daily dustbin, anybody have anything in the dustbin other than food waste and
Plastics, paper, glass.
yes, there you go. Thank you, Laura. So a few things you can have in your waste is your normal tin cans, your Coke cans and whatever it is, your can waste. You also have, as Isabel said, packaging and other types of waste that's just thrown away. We have the plastic bottles that's famous for our water bottles and things like this. We have food waste, we have garage waste, we have glass and bottles and things. So there's lots of different types of waste. What do you think is the most critical thing in waste, in trying to do something useful with the waste? What do you think is the most critical thing when you're trying to do something useful with waste, be it recycling, reuse, whatever.
Triage or selection, no, what types?
Yes, it's the segregation. That's the key thing nowadays in all this. It's segregation. So the key thing is correct segregation. I mean, we could go crazy. We could have, this is what we're doing in the office, you know, Weee waste, glass, plastic, metal, organic, paper. It's key to have segregation. You don't necessarily have to have all of these. It depends on what you're trying to segregate and what you're trying to reuse and recycle. So you segregate what you can manage safely. So I don't expect you to segregate chicken bones out of the food waste or something like that. Or I don't expect you to pick only blue glass bottles or anything like this. But segregation should be dependent on what materials you can actually manage and use safely. In some cases, like in our friends in Maite's place in Nairobi, you only really need 2 or 3 bins, one for general rubbish that you can't do anything with, one with recyclable waste where all your plastic bottles and your glass bottles and everything else go in, and one for organic, because they have a system where the recycling is done in an area where they actually pick themselves the different things out of the recycling waste. In other areas, you might have to specialize and just have a special bin or a special collection of for plastic bottles, or so, let's say. So you can have general waste, plastic bottles, or what you're recycling, and then you have your normal waste stream of organic. Now, I'm talking about more about domestic waste here than medical waste. I dealt with expired drugs and medical waste in the first two webinars. So we're talking more a bit about more general waste in this situation. Okay, so it's good. So now we know that segregation is the biggest key of what we need to do. So maybe just 2 or 3 bins. And obviously, this is an obvious question. Why do we need to deal with it? What's the most important ethics we have? What do we have to do? Why do we deal with waste and segregate the waste? It's a famous line that we say all the time. So again,
I don't know. Not to increase the dumping sites and then pollute water, soil, and
correct.
Living quarters.
Yeah, for your living quarters. Yeah. What you go for is exactly what you said. It's a very simple phrase. It's a very easy one to do. It's, if it works, do no harm. So do no harm to people, obviously, but do no harm to the environment, because just throwing everything away and burying everything is harmful to the environment. The environment won't recover. And so do no harm is the key point of all of this, and we do this through segregation. But let's have a think. What do we have material-wise in MSF? What's the average waste we have in a normal MSF project? And this was a question that we had, and we found an answer. So in an average waste, the average waste in an MSF MSF project is split into these categories. We have domestic waste, which is maybe 70%, 75%, general medical waste, and then health-related specific waste, which could maybe be classified as hazardous waste. So you see, we concentrate a lot on doing waste management areas, medical hospital waste management areas, but that's only covering maybe 10, 20, 25% of the waste we generate in an MSF project. So we concentrate with our hazardous waste areas and medical waste areas and expired drugs. But that's a very small portion of the problem. We have there 75% domestic waste. What does that consist of? What does that domestic waste consist of? How do we divide that into something that we can use? Now, looking at the segregation things again, let's take this 75%, imagine it's a plastic bag, and let's see what we have. So from that domestic waste, that's 75% of domestic waste, maybe 60% of that is organic waste, be it from the food and things like this. It's usually individuals, community waste food and the products in the kitchen and things like this. 20% of this is possible to be recycled and reused or sell and give to a scrap dealer. Then you have 10% of it, which could be reused, could be recycled, but it has to be disposed of safely. It's more of a problematic one. Like batteries, you can't just throw away into a recycling unless you have a proper recycling place for it. Same with Weee waste. You have to put it in a proper disposal place. And then you have the last one, which is a small percentage, which would be like 10%, which will be, we can't do anything with it. It's too toxic to do anything with it. So now we've seen what we have in the MSF project, and now we've seen how much domestic waste, and now we've broken down the domestic waste into different areas. Then we can think about the key thing, which is segregation. Once you segregate, then you can start thinking how to manage it. So, how do you manage the waste? So how do we manage it? So this here gives us our preferred option of what we could do with the waste that we generate. We can reduce the amount, which is very preferred, reduce the amount of some becomes waste. We can reuse the material that's waste. We can repair it. We can either recycle or compost it if possible, and to do some kind of recovery of energy. I'm not going down to recovery of energy and disposable treatment disposal and irresponsible disposal, but we're trying to look now at the first 3 or 4 of these ways of managing waste. So from this table, you can see that the preferred options and the best way to deal with waste is to reduce. Okay, so let's go through these one at a time and see if we can have some pointers and some help on how we can do these. Okay, so let's start with reduce. How can we reduce the amount of waste we produce? Very simple question. Come on, participate. How do you reduce the amount of waste we produce?
Buying less.
Buying less. Very good. Yes. And the first thing is buying less, being more accurate with your supplies.
Trying to avoid the products with a lot of packaging.
Avoiding products which are not suitable products. Yes, the quality and the quantity of quality of the products. Anything else?
It's more the quality, it's the packaging. The ones that they have a lot of plastics, cartoons, and the publicity, and then at the end you find the slice of ham.
Yeah, it reminds me when you go to the supermarket, you have like 5 layers of different plastic on one product. Yeah, that's what you mean. Okay, so the first one is quite straightforward, and you got it right. Just word it slightly differently. It's accurate planning. If you plan accurately how much material you need or what you're going to be doing, you will be able to reduce the amount of waste than just over ordering or picking the wrong thing or whatever it is. So accurate planning is a good way of reducing waste. The other thing that we see quite a lot is, do you really need it? Think about, do you really need it? So it's often you're trying to, we'll get one of these and we'll get 10 of these, we'll get 15 of these, we'll get 20 of these, we'll get 30 of these. Think about, do you really need all of this? Do you really need it? And that will reduce your waste because you won't get so much of it, as Laura said at the beginning. And then you have to think about, when we touched on it very briefly, the quality and the quantity. So the quality, if you buy rubbish to begin with, so if you buy something that you know is not very good quality, that won't last very long, and then you have to replace it again in a few months' time, and instead of buying a better quality one, you'll reduce the quantity of the materials you'll need because you buy one that will last the lifetime of 5 other ones. So always look at the balance between quality and quantity of the materials, and that will help you reduce the amount of waste. Then we have the lifespan. Again, this is to do with quality. The lifespan is, if it's a good quality material and is a good quality product, it will last a lot longer. And after lifespan, what do we do with it? So it's a very easy thing to think about. We say, oh, yes, we won't order so much and we'll plan and do it and things like this. But it's very key. I think it's the medicals actually go through and they have a calculation they do at the end of every year to see how much drugs have been over-ordered and things like this. And there's quite a lot. I know there's other reasons for it, but there's quite a lot. And it's one of the main aims for our reduction in climate footprint is to the carbon footprint and climate change is to look at accurate medical ordering. Give us a nice example, some simple examples of how you can reduce waste, some products. Think of a product. So go back, Isabel, go back to when you were thinking about less packaging. What's better than less packaging?
I have an example here. They are, because we are using soap in many services and with many hygienists, they have decided that they go with 100 grams doses of soap. And I've been fighting to buy 5 kilos packages of soap. And it's a battle that I might win, but I'm not so sure.
Oh, no, it's very good. It's actually saying reduce the amount of packaging by going for a larger quantity if you need a larger quantity. What about another thing you have in Yemen? You used to have, when I was there, you used to have bottled water. When we were there 7 years ago or 8 years ago,
yeah.
we used to have bottled water.
We were buying bottles, yes. Of, now we have reverse osmosis.
Yeah.
And we are using the bottles of the water dispensers that they are cleaned and reused.
So that's very simple way of reducing the waste is actually not buying the product that has a lot of packaging to it. For example, as you said, like using bottled water as a water dispenser instead of a single-use bottled water, and then you can either do like water filters as well, which will help you to reduce the amount of waste because you're not wasting the things you're producing water, and you use it. Plastic cups, reusable plastic cups instead of the throwaway ones and things like this. It's these reusable items that are the best way to actually reduce the amount of waste. So we looked at reduce very briefly, and it goes on to the next subject, which is reusable materials. So for reusable materials, we can, with clear segregation as always, talking about segregation all the time, it's a message I have to put home very strong, is to make sure you get good segregation. We have to identify what we can be reused and how we reused it, but we always have to think of safety first. Nothing that's contaminated unless we clean it and things like this. So there is many reusable things that we can do. Maybe retask them to something they weren't necessarily used for to begin with, but we can reuse them in a different way. Any examples of that? Things you reuse? Anything you reuse? What would you do if you had expired gloves? Would you throw them away? Or would you try and reuse them or give them to the cleaners or something to use?
Sorry, expired what?
Expired gloves, the sterile gloves that go out of date.
Yeah.
Sorry. Expired gloves that go out of date. We can reuse them. You won't reuse them as surgical gloves, but the cleaners could use them. You know, it would cut down the amount of gloves you buy because the cleaners could use them. As long as you carefully segregate and identify what could be reused, you label it so they know it's not going to be used for surgical stuff. But things like we've had experiences where the old fridges that used to be for the cold chain, instead of throwing them away, or when they're not, you know, up to the normal standard, instead of throwing them away, we repurpose them for the house or for the office to keep the drinks cold and the food cold, because they weren't suitable for the cold chain. A good example of this is expired chlorine. What do you do with expired chlorine?
Use it for cleaning floors where you don't need a specific dose, or not such a strict, accurate dose.
Yeah, exactly. You might not be too certain of what the percentage you're using, but for cleaning non-specialist floors or non-specialist non-specialist surfaces is fine. You know, expired chlorine. It saves you trying to get rid of it, because dispose of 60% chlorine is quite difficult to do. So to actually use it is quite a good thing. So that gives you an idea of what we can do reusing materials. So fridges, expired chlorine gloves, maybe soap containers and ink cartridges. Ink cartridges you can reuse and take them back and refill them in some countries. What about recyclable materials? What's the first thing you do with recyclable materials? How would you deal with recyclable materials?
I think the first one will be to segregate also.
Yes. Top of the class. Go ahead. After segregation. After segregation, what would you do?
Usually you clean them. Or
you could clean it. Oh, well, it'd be good if you could clean it, but that's not.
depending on the materials. Yeah.
Yes. You've just segregated it, but you've got to sort of identify who will use it. It's okay collecting tin cans, but if no one's recycling tin cans, then there's no point you collecting them. So you have to identify what materials and who are the companies you're going to give it to. That's quite difficult in some cases because they want specific items, like they only want plastic bottles, or they only want metal, or they only want food waste or something like this. But that's why I said at the beginning, when you segregate to match the materials that you can do something with. You can reuse or you can recycle. So you segregate to match what you can do. So from here, you set an agreement to identify and validate the companies that are going to do the recycling. You set an agreement with them, so there's an idea of how much material we're going to be using and how much we're going to be giving back and forward. And the example of recyclable materials. Go on, there's loads of recycling materials. We talked about them lots of times. What do you recycle?
Plastic, glass.
Plastic,
Batteries.
glass, paper, bottles, metal, anything that has kind of use, but we have to make sure we can recycle. We have a company or a person that we can deal with to set an agreement for these materials. Okay, good. So we've done this one, and the last one, which they had on the list there, which I thought was interesting, was composting. Trying composting is quite ambitious, I think, for us. But again, we segregate what we can. We identify or validate companies or people in the area that can use it, be it a farmer for his compost heap, or even food waste for the animals or something like that, instead of composting food waste to the animals and things, and see what they get. And see if you can set an agreement with them, so you know that it's an organized thing. It's not just putting the waste outside the door hoping someone picks it up. That will just attract a mess. So again, when here, as we said, it's very interesting for composting. it's any food left over, any clippings, any rotting material and things like this. Okay, so now we've gone through the few things that we can do. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples. And I'm glad Isabel's here because she'll like this one. So, example, champions of waste. Champions of waste. And even Isabel could give 2 seconds on this if she wants to, or allow. Let's see. Yemen. I know they collect scrap metal. I know they collect their bottles and their plastic bottles. And you have got a recycling people to pick that up. Is that so?
Yes, more or less. In the projects, yes, the metal scrap, yes. The bottles, not so much. We are using them on the fences of the hospital, which is not a very nice way to waste.
Don't tell them that. Just say yes.
Yeah,
You're recycling them.
I
You're
know.
reusing them.
Reusing them, no, recycling. Yes, it's not so easy because the few people they were investing in all these things now they are really depressed, harassed by the authorities to give money. So
Yeah.
I would say that the little that Yemen was doing is tumbling down.
But you also drew together this nice table. I see that actually signifies or highlights what you can possibly reuse and recycle. You have your electrical waste there. You have a glass like light bulbs and fluorescents going to different waste. And you've done this kind of waste segregation because I'm really into segregation. So I like the way that's being done as well in Yemen. So that's quite nice. Another champion.
That's from Palestine. No, the poster is from Palestine.
Yeah. But the other one, all right, you could be proud of that.
But I can share it too. Yeah.
The other one that's interesting is Ethiopia. Ethiopia, you can see all the plastic bottles that used to get in Ethiopia. Unfortunately, OCBA is not there anymore. But I'm see if we can find it if the project's still going. So basically, in the hospital, everyone gets a plastic bottle of water and they throw it away. So that's a bit of a mess. So the same truck that comes in to drop off the bottled water also now picks up the empties and takes it back for recycling. We do make little toys with them for the kids as well. But the main thing in Ethiopia is that they just, the same transport that goes in with the full bottles of water come out with the empty bottles and goes back to the reprocessing yards. That's a very simple thing to do. So one of the key resources we can think, one of the key resources we're using is this one that's coming up, which is the pacemaker. And it's a pacemaker. It was an OCP document, and it's a key for Climate Hub. It was done for the Climate Hub. It's in French and in English, and it's a useful thing to look at. It's only just been released. We'll have a link for you ready when you want to have a look at it, and it will go through all the different types of waste that we went through and how we can use it or dispose of it or whatever we can do with materials that we have. Okay, so now what we're going to do. Now, in the next, I don't know, 10 minutes, quarter of an hour that I have left, is we're going to look at what we did in the last webinars. We did one on managing the expired drugs, if you remember that. One on our waste management area, one on our hazardous log waste, which is the e-waste and the garage waste, and one on liquid waste. And we're going to try just to have a little bit of information from you to see how you're getting on. So I want to try something new. And I don't know if Maite wants to help me explain this. We want to try a poll to see who has done more than one and which ones have you done, just so we have an idea. Maite?
People can just use their phones or use the link that I just shared before the comment by Theodore. So then you can just click on the webinars that you have attended. Then I share my screen to see which ones you have done or not. So just pick your phone to go into that link. And then, okay, let me just share the screen, Paul.
Yes, go ahead.
I think you have to stop and sharing.
Okay. Hold on. Where do I stop sharing?
I think people may already be seeing mine.
Oh, okay. Have you got any results
I don't
yet?
think they do. I don't think they can see mine, right?
Yeah, we can see the results of the Mentimeter survey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Are people voting? I can't see anything from here.
Yes, you can. In the screen. No, you cannot see the screen.
No, it's okay.
Let me see.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Let them do the results and let's see how we get on.
We are like 12%. Let me see. Out of 2%. We can see this better. So far, there's 2% that has voted out of 10.
Sometimes it's easier to go to the link than it is to go to the picture.
Oh, the picture. Yes, because the picture, like because we removed the picture is this.
Oh, the link. I don't know.
The link is in the chat.
Okay.
The QR code is this one. Is also in the chat. But I mean, we are a bit pressed with the time. I don't know,
Yeah.
Paul. Perhaps you can just continue.
Okay.
Because
I'll
it's only
continue on.
2%. Yeah,
I'll continue on.
then we can see.
So am I still on shared? Am I still on the front screen?
No, now you have to share again.
Now you can see me. Yes?
Yes, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so that was the poll. So let's go to the next one. So first thing we went to on the first week we did was managing expired drugs. We did this with the pharmacists. A lot of pharmacists were there at the same time. And so the most important thing really was the steps for expired drug management, where we looked at the periodicity and who is responsible, Medco, MTL, identify the sort, the article codes, collection of the waste, send the list to the cell, which is the Medco's responsibility, HQ pharma referent to send the recommended list to the HQ Watson referent. This is where we decide how to do the destruction. They send a letter for the destruction permit to the authorities, and then it's the log who is responsible for the disposal of hazardous waste, and the Medco head of mission logco reference supply to obtain the destruction certificate. So that's the steps for how to do the expired drugs. And so that was a key thing on the last webinar we did on expired drugs. And it was again this thing about the expired drugs. This is how they used to do it in Mozambique, which we're not very happy with at all. Do no harm for the people and the environment. So you can see the triangle with the end cut off. The last one to avoid is irresponsible disposal. So in this case, we're going to have to try and find a way to successfully dispose of our drugs and understand how to dispose of drugs better in some places. A quick question for you, a quick challenge for you. In order to understand how we're doing with our reduction of the amount of waste we have, how do we measure the amount of material, the amount of waste we have? How would you measure it? Any ideas? Go ahead. I can't see my screen. I don't know if anyone's.
That's me, is Ibrahim from Yemen Mission, Ibrahim Deputy Loco.
Oh, hello, Ibrahim. Good to hear you, my young man.
So, yeah. So I think is the weight and the volume we have for the expired that we measure, and it's different from liquid to other chemicals.
Yeah, very much so. And so in some cases, in cases in Yemen, you actually weigh it, don't you? You take the bag and you weigh the bag or something.
Yeah, actually, we put it. They open all this expired drugs and they put it in one bag and they weight it. So then they register how many kgs.
Okay.
To be
very good.
incinerated. Yeah.
To be incinerated, yeah. And then we have an idea of how much we're incinerating or burning in the incinerator. Okay, good. Is there any other ways you can measure it? You can actually think about the size of a bag and say, okay, a bag of this much, when we do it, usually weighs this much. And it's good enough to give us an article, because one of the things we need you all to do is to measure the amount of material you're doing as waste. Because as you saw by our ambitions, we're trying to collect information. If we don't have the information, we can't necessarily do the calculation of how much we've reduced our waste. So think of this thing about how to measure your waste in your missions. So the resources we have are the lab and farmer waste fields. We have hazardous waste management, the SOP, and we have the health-related hazardous management in middle-end countries. So that's quite good. So that was one of the webinars we did. Again, you should be able to find that in the Yammer or ask us for us, and we can see if we can find the webinar for you to rewatch. Then you have one of the webinars we did was arranging our waste area. So the key things to take with that is, again, segregation into the sharps, organic, soft, and general and expired drugs. Remember, we've got like soft clean can go to the recycling area, but generally that's what we have in our waste management area. And another key thing to take back from that webinar is the safety aspects of the waste area. So make sure that the person who's dealing with the organic waste and the chlorination is wearing the correct PPE, and the person who's using the incinerator has got the high temperature gloves and the leather apron and the safety goggles and shield. It's all in the kit medical waste there, so you can actually make sure you have the right PPE. So that was the summary of that one. And then there's the key resources for the waste area is the construction drawing of the waste management areas, the OCBA cleaning and disinfection procedures and healthcare structure, which is done in a few languages by Laura Conde, and also training materials of how to do the cleaning and disinfection procedures, again by Laura. So those are the key ones for our waste area seminar. And then, where that went? Hold on. And then we did one on hazardous log waste, which is e-waste and electrical waste. This was done with Sebastian and Maite as well. And the key take-homes for that were, number one, information. So look at your waste and collect information about the waste you have. Take precautionary measures over what the waste is from your e-waste. Store it, especially if it's corrosive and dangerous and stuff. Measure the quantity of it, and then we can think about treatment options for that kind of thing. It's very new for us to start dealing with Weee waste and things like this, so it's quite fresh, and we have to be very careful how we handle it. So we have to look at, basically, we have a call for action. So if you have a hazardous waste problem, contact us. Contact your WhatsApp people and send a picture of the waste you have. So once we have a picture, an idea of what you have, we can work out how to dispose of it safely. And if you need to, we can visit to your location to assist, and also maybe help you validate a company that you can use for your disposal of the Weee waste and non-medical waste. So this comes to this one, which is non-medical hazardous waste policy, which is in every country-specific policy. Then you've got the waste stock evaluation document and the health-related hazardous waste. All these documentation we will be able to send to you as you're here on this list. We will send to you so you can use it when you wish. And the last one we did was liquid waste in the health structures. And the key take home for that was the different types of waste you have in health structures: grey water, black water, rainwater, lab waste. And what do we do with all these things? So that was one of the key parts of water in the health structure, wastewater in the health structure, of what we can do with it. And the key resources was the public health engineering in precarious situations. And the next document you could use was the construction technical sheets for the designs of the septic tanks and the grease traps and the soakaways. And also you have, again, the hazardous waste management document by Jos. Then to finish off the one we did today is let's be smart about our waste. And the key take-home points of this were: be brave with your waste. The pacemaker documentation you see there, have a look at it, have a read through it. It can show you what you can do, what you could possibly do. It gives examples and also gives champions of people who are successful in handling their waste in a slightly different way. Obviously, my key one is segregate, segregate, segregate. And measure, but also, you know, recycle, reuse, and reduce, recycle, reuse is the motto for that. But if you can measure the material you have, it helps us understand how we're doing. To help you do all of this, we have our WhatsApp team. So you see here the WhatsApp team. Just to remind you who everybody is and where they all fit. Like this. The person that'll be interesting will be eventually be Sebastian, who is the Mio Waste that we will try to go around from place to place. I think he's away at the moment, in the field at the moment, helping to see if he can do things about waste in the field. Also, another resource we have that you can use is the Yammer group. I'd like you all to join this Yammer group. Just go to Yammer and put your names in there, and you can join the community of interest, where you can get lots of information, and you can get also the last webinars from what you were watching before if you hadn't seen them. And it could help you with this, but also you can put comments on this group about any information you need concerning waste or concerning any WhatsApp issues. Okay. Maite, do we go ahead and do this?
Sure. There's a question by Theodore, I think it's Theodore, right, in Bangui, that perhaps you might want to address.
Oh, you can tell me because I can't see the questions on this page.
So, Paul,
Yes,
there is the... Oh, you can see it. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, Paul. This is Theodore from Bangui.
Hey, Theodore. Nice to hear you.
Yeah, so I think when I participated in 2023, there was some technical training in Bordeaux. Some of the other participants, I think in OCG, used to mention about the circular economy for waste management. And an example they gave was in a residence of expats, leftover food, they identify animal farmers in communities to hand over to them. So it was kind of reused. And so I was just asking, I thought of it now doing this training, how much can we implement this in the field too? How much can we put it to practice effectively? Something like that.
Very good question. Very nice. All of this recycling and reuse and thing is very good. But it depends on the people there. It depends on your enthusiasm. If you want to make packages of the waste food that are coming out the kitchen and give them to a farmer who looks after his animals in the field, that's fine. But you've got to make sure that the food is segregated correctly and it won't affect the animals. You've got to make sure that it's not just like specializing for one person only, because then everybody else say, how come you're feeding his animals and not our animals? You could even get your own MSF goat if you want and feed him your own food. And then you can eat him afterwards, which is even better if you wanted to, or just have him as a pet. But on the whole, I'm not against doing that. There is also, we could start, MSF could start their own composting, but it's not really advised because it takes a lot of maintenance. And some people aren't going to be in the mission long enough to, to be able to fully maintain a composting system. But yes, if we can reuse or relocate the waste from the kitchen, that's fine. The same with the tin cans from the MSF house or the MSF office and things like this, and all the other waste. Yes, we can recycle and reuse as we wish. Is that okay?
Okay, cool.
Thanks, Theodore. Nice to hear from you.
Okay.
Maite.
Sorry, I'm just trying to share the. So if people want to just share, go to the link and the Mentimeter as well, and then can vote in the next question on how relevant, wherever you attended, these webinars have been, if relevant or that much relevant. That would be useful, despite that we are not too many.
There's 14 people there now. It's quite good. But I'd appreciate some answers so we know if we're doing the right thing or not.
I would really encourage people to take a look to the pacemaker, because it's what, Theodore, you were talking. It really gives more examples of what people have been implementing and try to give solutions and ideas to try to be more clever with our waste. So don't hesitate. The document is in French and in English, and it's just intersectionally adopted since 2 days ago. So the link has been shared in the chat and will be shared as well in the Yammer. So just go for it.
Okay.
Any more answers to the question?
And then I guess it's done. They might have some challenges on accessing. So let's just put the last question.
No, I will have to go through the previous one, the Weee waste, because what I am finding everywhere is that we are beginning to collect a lot of informatic materials everywhere. In countries we cannot get rid of, except with a hammer and bury them. Because there's no way that we can export this. So you can imagine customs saying yes to that. And the countries are not developing anything. Me, I am beginning to find piles of old computers in the places I'm working.
Oof. We'll have a talk about that. We'll have a talk about that in a minute. Maite, can you do the last question? And I agree with you, by the way, Isabel.
Yeah, but there's experiences of exporting and companies that internationally take the waste to different places where it can be managed properly. Definitely that's the last resort. So it's good to talk on a specific basis, Isabel, for that specifically. We already have, I think it's 3 experiences within MSF in which internationally waste has been moved to dispose the hazardous part of the waste.
Okay. Not in this country.
Not in that country.
No, because here is impossible to take out things, spikes.
So there's a quick question for you to look at on the screen, Isabel. I want your input on this one. Which other topics would you be interested in? So we can try to do our series of webinars on other topics that you think of. Only two people said. One person said Watson on DMC environments. Interesting. One on vector control management. Is there any other people who want to give us more topics to talk about? Are you interested in specific diseases? The Watson relating into Ebola or into cholera or into something like that, or malaria, or you're interested in Watson relationship in hygiene promotion, or what would you be interested in us going into?
The wastewater in cholera. I know there are nice ways to do it, but when you don't have space, maybe
Wastewater in cholera?
Yeah, I think it's still a problem. Yeah.
It's still a question. Yeah, it's still a question. If you question it, Isabel, I'm sure lots of other people have an equal question, if not more.
No, as you know, we have set up a cholera center in Abs in Yemen, but due to the space, let's say not reduced but minimal, we cannot put into place any of these lime process. That would be very nice, but you need a space for that.
Yes.
In that case, we don't have even a single square inch for that. So I don't know if we have a system to do in towers. I don't in another level, or I don't know how to extra to begin to think a small treatment wastewater treatment that you don't set up inside the cholera center, but nearby in a fenced space or something. Because you know, we are using in many places schools or places that you shouldn't leave a lot of this kind of waste, because it's a public place that afterwards you never know what they are going to do with the soil. So
you don't dig a shallow pit latrine. You don't dig a shallow pit latrine, because in 5 years, someone will dig it up. Cholera itself doesn't last too long outside the human body, but it still can be risky. And so, no, that's quite a good point. Is any other topics you'd like us to talk about? There's a few there. Oh, there's some in the chat, Maite.
Say that?
There's some ideas and topics in the chat at the moment, so I didn't see.
Yes. Yeah, I see.
Bang,
Thank you very much. I think for the matter of time, perhaps we shall close it up, Paul.
Yes, that's it. We just finished off. I think we just got one slide to finish, and that's it. So the only other thing, I think we're finished. Let me just finish it off. That's it. Oh, yeah, we're all finished now. Yeah, so the time's up. Sorry, went over a little bit of the time. But thanks from us. We've got our general Watson log tech at Barcelona, msf.org there. And as we said, we're going through whatever questions. But I'd like to say before we just all run away, thank you very much for everyone's inputs over these 5 webinars. We've had some interesting discussions. We've had some interesting talks, and I hope it's been useful for people. And we're looking forward to doing some more webinars. So if you can think of anything, please feel free to write to us or contact us for anything else you want to contact us about. Maite, do you want to do a quick sign off? Oh, no, sign off, but ask for any questions. We've got 5 minutes worth of questions if they want more questions.
I think it's depending, if people have questions, they can ask it.
Any killing questions?
All the recordings are in Yama. Not all the recordings, by the way. The expired track recordings got somehow lost, and not because they were expired. It was just something with 2 teams, but the rest shall be mostly there. And so the link is as well in Yama. Just get engaged as much as you wish in that platform. And have a good afternoon.
Have a good afternoon. If any other thing from anybody?
Just curiosity. Do we have any agreement with any company that is specialized in waste recycle or something? In the civilized, well, civilized now, developed world that would be interested in do some pilot in some of the countries we are working with?
Maite, tell them about Nairobi and your Weee waste project.
No, they are not mine. I mean, it's more intersectionally somehow, but yes, I mean, there's the possibility to, well, we are now focusing a little bit more in South Sudan because there was this intersectional warehouse in which there's quite a bit of Weee waste being stored. So there are some companies that start developing. In Nairobi, definitely we do have. In South Sudan is more tricky, although there is one that is potentially growing. There has been as well initiatives to move used car oil towards Uganda from OCG in, I think it was last year. We might be looking at a company that is in Rwanda, which is called Enviroserve, that really has another, well, the same company has a filial in Dubai, in which they do treat and process most of the hazardous waste and then ship it there wherever it cannot be processed within the country. What we are trying now, is in writing up a TIC project in order to help us to even work more intersectionally. So eventually, perhaps even we can coordinate an exportation of the part of hazardous waste in South Sudan that cannot be processed in the country overseas. We have already there is a Mecopol, perhaps you can mute. Yeah, there's already an agreement with a company in France that treats the motherboard from the computers, which are the parts that has the hazardous part of it. So the solutions are very localized. So we have to keep exploring in each country what is there and what is not. And that's why we have this Mio Sebastian with us to really help more to whoever is in the country, to create a focal point in the country and assist to try to find these possible facilities or go internationally. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm more or less answering your question, Isabel.
Yes, that was the question. Yeah.
And there's from Bogota.
Hi, hi everybody. I have a question. Yes, what we should be. Hi, Paul. What should we be careful when we go to a company or a person who recycle, based on the fact that we are MSF? So which thing we have to be careful with this collaboration with another company or person who recycles? I don't know if I made myself clear. Sorry.
I think
validate, Martin.
You want, like, if I understand properly, is that what shall we be looking at from the company in order to validate it? Am I right?
Right.
Correct.
So, in fact, that's a super good question because, like I would say, we do have a sort of a template, several templates indeed, in how we approach a company in terms of trying to get the validation, in terms of getting their permits, in terms of going to visit the facility and so on. So I say, if you are in that point, I would really encourage you to contact, so in your case is Laura Holland, Sebastian, in order to facilitate these documents. Yeah, there's true that there is more looked into hazardous waste, but similar sort of template can be looked because we are looking at how do the company manages the waste it's taking. Is it producing some environmental impact into the air, into the ground, into the waters around? How is it treating the people that are working in that facility? Are they protected or not? Are they being treated properly in the conditions within the space they are working as safe, not safe? We are also looking at, do they have any social responsibility or commitment within their project or not? What's their business? So there's a bunch of array, and there's some of them which we have put sort of a red line. This one is like, okay, if the people, as much as it's a very nice company, but if everybody is without PPEs and we are fearing that there's like a pollution of something, perhaps our response might be, let's wait and hold on into the ways we have, if we have enough storage, right? So reach out. Yeah, I think I'm more or less addressed the question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Anything else? We've just gone over our time now, I think, by a little bit, but we can still have one more question if you want one more question before we say goodbye. Or not. Okay. So thank you very much for your participation in this presentation and this webinar stuff, and thank you very much for your participation in the other trainings that we've done, the other webinars we've done. It's very nice to see and hear from people over and over again, so feel free to contact us, and I advise you, if you wish to join the YAMA, and we can continue some of these conversations if you wish. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your help, Maite.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody. Be safe.
Bye.